Hi, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thanks for tuning in to Metra Marichi. Today, I want to talk about the joys of exploring multiple perspectives. As usual, I'm going to start with a flashback. And today's flashback is about an anime that I watched as a child. Particularly, this one scene where the protagonist, a schoolgirl, finds her teacher hanging upside down by her legs from a tree branch in the empty schoolyard. The girl's obviously surprised and she asks her what she is doing, to which the teacher replies, "When you're stuck, it's always a good idea to try and look at things from a different perspective." Her preferred method of gaining perspective was to perform headstands. Now, I never got to performing that level of acrobatics. But this scene did leave an impression on me, and I figured that to gain perspective requires some out-of-the-box thinking. Years later, I took a creative writing course in college, which introduced me to the lesser-known and very fascinating genre of experimental writing. There are no defined structures in this form of writing, but it has to make sense in as much a piece of writing can make sense to a reader, depending on the reader's seeking and their context. For our final class project, we brought out a zine, that is a short magazine, featuring our finest, most experimental pieces of creative writing. One of these was a handwritten article with the sentences curving in a circular spiral. In our peer review session, a classmate mentioned that he'd printed the article so he could rotate the page and read the sentences properly. I was pretty stunned when I heard that, and I said, "Well, you're certainly smarter than me, because I picked up my laptop and rotated that clockwise to be able to read the article." The point of the story is that this class and this writing project in particular was our training to be considerate of each other's perspective and to show that consideration by making a real effort to meet each other halfway. You write something that's unfamiliar to me, I'm not going to question the validity of your writing. I'm going to tilt my head left and right. I'm going to tilt the page on which your words are written to get to the meaning of what you're trying to say. And that is how I open and carve my own path of learning. What is unfamiliar and different is not necessarily wrong. It's not something to be wary of. It's actually a chance to explore a portal to an alternate reality that can add magic to our otherwise humdrum lives. Somebody once told me that reality is whatever we believe. And I believe that any pattern of thought that gathers dust due to plain routine or neglect makes for a very humdrum reality. This is precisely the reason why we seek movies, video games, and books, and travel and art. The reason why we even explore different kinds of cuisines and enjoy visiting restaurants and cafes, museums, any space that has been curated to be an experience with a lot of thought put into it. And also nature walks. That doesn't need an explanation. Nature is the best wizard there is. Every pebble, leaf, tree bark, cloud has been created with incredible attention to detail. It's like taking a walk through Disneyland if you know what to look for. In seeking all or any of these experiences, we are transcending the humdrum. And this is made possible by the confluence of multiple perspectives from multiple people. Which is why I believe we must acknowledge all the people in our life as equal players and participants in our story. And yes, of course, life isn't always a jaunt through Disneyland. To borrow from an internet meme, life is a walk in the park. Except it's Jurassic Park. Perspectives can be friendly, snarly, or many things in between, but we won't know which ones they are till we engage with them. Meeting a person once or twice isn't enough to know them entirely. But if we don't meet them at all, we don't know them at all, and it's an endeavor worth pursuing. To borrow again from an internet quote, the extent to which you can meet somebody, that is, how well you can understand them, depends on how deeply you've met yourself. If this podcast gave you something new to think about, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thanks for listening in.